Options, 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 declining options, accepting options. We got lots to get into today on Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live on all social media. Make sure you smash the thumbs up on this video right now. Hit that subscribe button below. Support the channel. We're taking you through this entire hot stove stretch with the New York Mets. Scan that code, become a Mets Daily Insider member. Just $5 a month, cheaper than a cup of coffee. It's official. Edwin Diaz has opted out of his deal, and Pete Alonso as well. Alonso, we knew immediately after the season. Diaz, we pretty much knew, but now it is set in stone and official. Edwin Diaz is on the market. He's a free agent, and the Mets got to do all they can to bring him back. We've talked about it. Edwin Diaz, to me, is more critical than Pete Alonso just because of the drop-off at closer. And the number people bring up, 4 years, $88 million, I think that's the minimum. I think at the very minimum, $20 million plus is what Edwin Diaz is going to get a year after the year he had, and the Mets got to do what they can to bring him back. Pete Alonso, I think there's going to be more interest. Like I've said, I think a team like the Red Sox are going to call Scott Boras and see what it would take to get Pete Alonso. I think they're going to be interested. I think a team like Texas could be interested. I think a team like Arizona could be in the mix for him to play first base. I think in that ballpark, he could work well in Arizona. So I'm fascinated to see the Alonso market. I'm fascinated to see the Diaz market because, like I said, after him, the closer drop-off is big. Are there other teams that will commit $20 million plus for a closer? Now, closers are volatile. 1 year they're great, next year they're bad. And for the most part, Edwin Diaz has been great in a Mets uniform. But when we're talking about a year like this year, that doesn't happen every year when you have a 1.63 ERA. Like we've talked about, he went from 3.45 to 1.31 to 3.52 to 1.63. So, if you go by his career, next year is going to be more of a down year for Edwin Diaz. But you would hope that he carries what he did last year and has another dominant year. But I just don't think you can afford to lose him. So I think there's going to be a market for Diaz. I think there's going to be a market for Alonso. But in the end, the Mets have the money. They have the owner that will spend. How will they spend? I don't think Stearns is going to spend on the aging first baseman. I think he will spend on the lights-out closer because we saw issues with the Mets bullpen leading up to Edwin Diaz and when Edwin Diaz wasn't available. So I think that's going to be critical for them. And speaking of the bullpen, lots of bullpen moves have been made already. Remember, the Mets have a lot of players they're going to potentially lose here, so the bullpen's going to look a lot different. Gregory Soto's a free agent. Tyler Rogers is a free agent. Ryan Helsley is a free agent. Now, A.J. Minter is back. A.J. Minter, as we expected, has opted in to his option that he had on the board. A.J. Minter will be back. He had a player option for $11.5 million for 2026. He is in. He is back. Brooks Raley, he is in for just under $5 million. Brooks Raley has opted in to his option, and I think that is critical for the Mets. You bring back Minter, you bring back Raley, you now have your two lights-out lefties set up to return. I think that's very important for the Mets. Raley coming back from, Tommy John, ended up having a great year, 2.45 ERA and 30 appearances. He opts into the club option for $4.75 million. So Minter is back, who missed a majority of the season. Looking forward to him coming back. Raley is back, who came back from injury in July and was fantastic in the second half. And the Mets have declined the option on Drew Smith, who was expected to come back next year. Tommy John surgery. I believe that was a $2 million option. So, listen, I think they should let Drew Smith walk. I have no interest in Drew Smith coming back. I think he was a fastball home run machine, gave up homers, was not comfortable with Drew Smith. Just no interest. I don't think he's that good. I'd say let him walk and get better relievers. So Minter, great. Raley, great. Bring back Diaz, and you're talking about Minter, Raley, Diaz. That's what you want at the back end of your bullpen. And then you got to figure out what else. Like, are you going to pay Ryan Helsley? Dickie Lovelady has a major league contract. Is he part of the picture next year as well? You hope you get a lot better than him. Huascar Brazoban, arbitration eligible. Do you bring him back? Dylan Ross, who was on the team the last game of the season, is he part of the opening day bullpen? Jonathan Pintaro, does he have a chance to make the roster? Reed Garrett will miss the entire season due to Tommy John. So the Mets, we're talking about the lineup and the starting rotation. The Mets have work to do in this bullpen. It starts with Diaz, but you got to get other guys. Minter and Raley are great, But you saw Mets starters, if they're not going to get through the 6th, 7th inning, and sometimes the 5th or 4th inning, you need to get that bullpen deeper. And maybe it's one of these young studs who ends up becoming a long man. But the reality is they have to address the bullpen. Now, they addressed it slightly, not very exciting way once again, as well on Tuesday, acquiring right-hand pitcher Joey Gerber from the Rays for cash. Now, Gerber, very limited major league experience. He has a career 20 innings in the big leagues. 4 1/3 came this year for the Rays as they trade with the Rays for cash considerations, where he gave up 3 hits and 1 run, a 2.08 ERA. Prior to that, he hadn't pitched in the big leagues since 2020 for the Mariners, where he pitched 15 and 2/3 innings. He gave up 7 earned runs. So very limited and spread out, sporadic major league experience. But once again, the Mets and Rays making a deal. And you know I've mentioned on here, they made the deal for Jose Siri last year. This time it's Gerber. I can see another deal coming with the Rays. You know, the Rays come to the Mets, it feels like, when they need cash. And if they need cash to maybe pay Yandy Diaz or Brandon Lau, they should come calling to the New York Mets. And I think that's the next deal coming between the Mets and Rays. This was like the appetizer. This was the mozzarella stick. You're hoping Lau or Diaz is the, chicken parm, the filet mignon, the next deal with the Rays. But Gerber, probably is going to be in AAA to start the season, I would imagine. Maybe he makes the team, but some success in the major leagues. We'll see, the pitching lab with the Rays, the pitching lab with the Mets. Maybe Gerber ends up being a critical middle relief piece for the Mets in 2026. But that is the deal the Mets have made. So they've signed Dickie Lovely to a major league deal. They've acquired Joey Gerber from the Rays for cash. They bring Minter back on an option. Raley's back on an option. Diaz, free agent. Alonso, free agent. Drew Smith, free agent. We'll see what happens with Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and Gregory Soto. If I'm the Mets, I'm bringing Tyler Rogers back, and I'm letting Gregory Soto walk. And I'm only bringing Ryan Helsley back if you get him on a team-friendly deal, but I don't think he wants to be back in New York, and he wasn't good here. So I'm good on letting Ryan Helsley walk if the price is too high on him. So lots of options. Luis Robert opted out of his option. Or opted in, excuse me. So the White Sox are going to pay him $20 million, or they're going to trade him. My guy Joe DeMayo obsessed, and Mark Luino both obsessed with trying to get Luis Robert. To me, no interest really. If it's Vientos for Robert straight up and they're eating some of the $20 million, fine, I'll do that. But to me, I think Luis Robert is looked at as this potential to be a star, and he only did it for me in 1 season. So I'm not in love with $20 million Luis Robert, but they do need a center fielder. So they could make a call with the White Sox. Obviously, they talked at the trade deadline to try to get him, and the asking price was too high. Maybe that price is lower if the White Sox just want to get that money off the books and put it onto the Mets. I think that's too high of a price for a position where you're probably going to eventually go to Benj or Jet Williams or someone else there anyway. I just don't know if it makes a ton of sense for the Mets. All right, folks, Mets Daily. Let's go to your questions and comments from yesterday's show. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. And follow me at Jake Brown Live. Putting on Air 726 says, don't worry about the catcher crossing for Valdez. It's just SNY hype. He has never been a clubhouse problem. He is the most consistent workhorse available. I don't really think it's SNY hype. I think the whole world was talking about it. I don't think that's an SNY thing. Maybe he's not, but going into free agency to have that pop up is not a great thing. Luis Fernandez says, I think we could sign Valdez and trade for Joe Ryan, sign Bregman for better third baseman hitting, let Beatty in second, get Naylor at first. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. You're getting Valdez, that's $25 million a year. Bregman, $30 million, that's $55. Getting Naylor, that's $20. You're talking about $80 million between those 3 players, and you still have more work to do. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds great if you get Valdez and trade for Joe Ryan. I just don't know if that's reality. Cousin Nolan is our ace, Mr. Brown from Sharon McClain. I guess Sharon McClain is Nolan McClain's cousin. She has commented on here saying cousin multiple times. So shout out to Nolan McClain's cousin if that's her. From Mayaguez, Mets 62. The next dominant team is going to be the Mets. I like it. Let's go. Ricky Mambo says Scrooble and Cease. Scooble and Cease. Yeah, Dylan Cease doesn't intrigue me. I just think he's way too erratic. The Mets have enough of that. They don't need an erratic starter. Cease has the potential to be an ace, but also has the potential to be a number 4. Like, you just never know what you're going to get out of him. Arcade Perfect Reviews. Rachel Goldman is legitimately a good pickup. She's a good reputation. I didn't know her until now, but it looked up. She's pretty universally liked. Yeah, love to hear that. Good hire for the Mets for Double-A hitting coach. Baltimore Adley for catcher, says Robert Niemar. Yeah, listen, I'd love Adley Rutschman. He's under contract, arbitration eligible, cheap for the Orioles. I don't know if he's going to be available. And I assume Adley Rutschman wants to play every day. The only way that happens for the Mets is if they trade Francisco Alvarez. So if they trade Alvarez, yeah, I would like Adley Rutschman. Putting on air, says Diaz will get 4 to 5 years and 20 to 25 million a year after his 25. Yes, I've said that. 4 years, 20 to 25. That's around the 85 to 90 plus range for 4 years. I agree. That's what he will get. Times have changed. Stearns gave Frankie Montas, always terrible, 17.5 2-year deal. That's a number 5. 30 million for Framber is fine as a number 2. Yeah, I mean, listen, Frankie Montas is the one guy I didn't mention. He opted in because why would he not? He's out for the season with elbow surgery. He's going to take his 17 million, call it a day to sit out. I assume insurance will pay part of that. Unfortunately, that's how the cookie crumbles. It was a terrible contract. It will count against the Mets payroll number for CBT threshold purposes. So for the tax purposes, Frankie Montas' contract does count, but obviously he will not pitch for the Mets. You're watching Mets Daily. We'll have Hot Stove covered. A lot more to get into tomorrow. Smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and follow me at Jake Brown Live. Thanks for watching Mets Daily. November 4th. Go out and vote. We'll talk to you tomorrow.